All right, lovelies, it's Friday night and I'm excited to be having a ladies' night in with Pat McGrath. I am so pumped to play with this brand new Celestial Odyssey palette. This is, of course, the Mthrshp Mega Holiday palette. I am really excited to crack into this. I am sad. I'm sad that it took a little while to get to me. I feel like my shipping karma has been off. My Anastasia Retro palette came to me pretty late. This one came to me pretty late. It actually showed up on my doorstep the day after we left on our trip. And so it sat for a week and it's been breaking my heart. So we are going to dive right in tonight. I realize that I am late to the game on getting up some looks and a review for you, but hopefully you still find this video helpful. I am really looking forward to doing a few looks. Now I thought what we could do, because we do have an 18 pen palette here, and I feel like there's a pretty wide color story going on. Obviously we're gonna be doing swatches in a second so you can see for yourself, but I thought we could start with some ethereal, celestial looks, if you will, and then move into some like holiday smoky sexy vibes. I really think with a palette this big and with a price tag this big, the true test is really going to be seeing how many looks we can get from it, how much diversity there really is for looks in this palette. So that's going to be what we're testing out tonight. Now, if we haven't met before, thank you so much for stopping by, and my name is Kelly. I'm a professional hair and makeup artist, and here on my channel, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Well, I feel like I've waited long enough to dive right in, so let's get into playing with this palette. All right, before we dive into looks, let's go ahead and talk some of the details about this palette. Now, like I said, I know that I'm getting a little late to the game on this, so if you've already seen all the deets, all the swatches, I'm going to have everything timestamped. If you're just here for the looks, you can go ahead and click on those, but if you want to know the details, here they are. Okay, so this is the palette itself. It is $78. The box actually mimics the palette packaging perfectly. I'll be honest, I'm not one to save packaging. I don't keep palettes in their packaging because I'm too lazy to like take it out of the cardboard every single time, so I know that I just wouldn't reach for it, and then I'm not one to like just store these somewhere. So I'll be honest, this is probably not going to stick around for long, but I did want to show it to you. Here is this year's packaging compared to last year's. This is the Celestial Divinity. You can see they are slightly different sizes. Let me line these up here. So the one from this year is a little bit bigger. It is also a little chunkier. There are pros and cons here. And I will say, like, I do think that Mama Pat probably listened to her audience, and a lot of people were disappointed in this. I personally wasn't. You can watch my review from last year if you want to. I will make sure to have that link below. And by the way, I realized I'm wearing the same shirt. Didn't plan that at all when I got dressed this morning for work. So I don't know what that means, but I thought it was very interesting. But I know that a lot of people who are big Pat McGrath collectors were a little bit bummed that this was a cardboard packaging, and you know that there is a lot of sticker work on this, and a lot of people actually got their palettes with crooked stickers. I know that was the thing too. I'll be honest, that isn't a big thing for me, for these palettes being at a significantly lower cost than what you would see in, like, let's say the regular Mthrshp palettes. Now I know that the pan size and all of that is different. Of course, the formulation is different too. If you're looking for the Italian formula, that's another thing. So it just depends on where the value lies for you. But for me, it was really all about being able to have a multitude of shades, and I really loved this palette. This has been in several favorite palette videos, whether it's ranking videos or, you know, just talking about palettes within my collection that I grab. This is one that I've loved. You can imagine how many palettes I have in my collection, and I feel like, oh, maybe you can't actually see, but she's well loved. She's looking well loved. Now, like I said, I think Pat listened and she sort of did a bit of a glow up this year. So you still have cardboard packaging, but you actually have a plastic insert that the shades sit in. So I think it gives it a little bit more of a luxe feel. This whole like logo thing in the center, sorry if I'm like blinding you, but I think it's sexy. I think it's classy, but let's be real. Wouldn't most of you have just been happier if she just like slapped an extra like bonus shade in here? I probably would have been. Or I really think, and I think I actually said this about this other palette last year. If she just squeezed everything together a little bit, it could be a little bit smaller, which for me, I don't necessarily plan on like traveling with palettes like this anyway, but it would be easier to store. That's all I'm saying. So I think it's sexy, but with most sexy packaging comes a little bit of frivolity. Is that the word that I'm looking for? A bit of frivolousness? Ugh, okay. You know what I'm trying to say here. I do have to say, I feel like I think I liked the pink and gold last year better than the red and gold. Now this to me screams holiday, but it's a little bit busier. I think it's just because of the contrast of the red versus the pink. I tend to like a little bit more sleek and sexy packaging, and this is just quite busy. I know this is Pat's vibe for these launches. I totally understand that. They're very bejeweled, like all of the holiday launches tend to be, but it's a little bit much for me. But it's all about what's inside for me, not necessarily what's outside. Now, I do think, and I could be wrong, but I think that this is actually embossed right onto the package. It doesn't look to be a sticker. This on the back, the shade selection is a sticker. So like I said, you got a little bit of a glow up, but obviously to keep this at that great price point of $78, you have to be willing to find some compromise in this relationship, right? So that's going to be where that is. Now, I actually really enjoyed having these ribbons on my palette. I know that some people cut them off, but I actually really found it to be helpful. However, mine sort of like lost their oomph after a while. So I think that they just like tugged out of the packaging a bit and they don't even work anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but at the end of the day, that's not a deal breaker for me. So to round that up, a slight upgrade in the packaging. I do think that this looks more quote unquote holiday. I like the aesthetic of this one better, but if you're sick of pink, maybe you're feeling refreshed by the red, that very well could be. And of course it does scream holiday, which is exactly what this is here for. Now, as far as the rest of the collection, I am really hoping to get a face trio. I'm really hoping to. I think I'm gonna wait until the Sephora VIB sale though, because I was gone during the launch and I was like, you know what? I was just focusing on other more important things and I was like, I'm not going to take the time to try to snag this today. And if it's still around when the VIB sale comes around, then I will get it then, and it was meant to be. All right, so there's a little bit about the changes as far as the packaging goes. Now, one of the other things that I think gives this palette a bit more value than last year's palette is the fact that this year you only have 4 repeat shades, whereas last year you had 12 repeat shades. That's right, only 6 of the shades in last year's were new shades. However, of course, you probably already know that the 12 shades that are in here that were repeats were from the Star Wars collection that like so many people were bummed that they could not get. So it was a great way for people to be able to get that in one place if they didn't want to go down the road of trying the Hunger Games of online Mercari Poshmark shopping, you know, if you were trying to find them from a previous owner. So this year we only have 4 repeat shades, which honestly I think is pretty good for Pat. I think she is sort of known for like reusing a bit every now and again. And you know, I mean, if it's good, that's great to reuse, but I feel like so many people are Pat McGrath collectors, so eventually you're sort of like collecting more of the same. But I really do love this color story. I think that this for Pat is quite a range of colors. I do really think that this has a bit of the vibes of what everybody was hoping would happen with the Utopia palette. I mean, maybe this doesn't have quite the unicorny vibe that some people were looking for, but it definitely has more color. And of course, we still have some pinks and golds because after all, this is a Pat McGrath palette, but I do love the fact that you have some beautiful deep shades. Of course, you guys know that I love a green, so when I saw not 1, but 2 beautiful greens in here, I was totally for it. So let's go ahead and get these swatched, shall we? Now, while I don't want to spend too much time on these swatches because they are, after all over the internet, I do want to sort of like give my first impressions as I go through. If you are curious about my opinion, if you find that maybe we have the same eyeshadow tastes, maybe we have some of the same color preferences, it might help you. Again, timestamps down below if you want to skip on past. And I'm realizing again that I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, but we will get through this. So I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can see up close and we'll get to swatching. All right, I pulled back my hair because we're gonna do some serious swatching. And by the way, I already did 4 of the shades, realized I wasn't filming, so we're gonna do this over again. I will also say that Pat has included 5 formulas this year. We have the new 24 karat duochrome sparkle. We have a sateen shimmer, a foiled metallic, velvet matte, and iridescent sparkle. I am very excited to share these with you again. Now, another thing is that while it may not be as sexy, I really wish that she just included the shade names here on the front of the packaging. I get it, it's not as aesthetically pleasing, but what I had to do was basically take a picture of the back of my palette, and I've got it here on my phone to read off for you. So we're going to get started with the first of 4 mattes in this collection. This is the shade Saturn Sunset, and it is very pretty. I would say that this is like a beautiful, like dusty, rosy mauve. It's really, really pretty. Then another shade that I am very excited about. Now, this was a single shadow that was available, so this shade feels really nice and creamy. This is Rose Venus, and it is a beautiful, it's like a more rosy rose gold, if you will. I'm hoping that you guys are getting a true look at this. I tried to turn my ring light down just to be able to get a more realistic look. Now we have Gold Galaxy, which is a new gold, which is nice because if Pat's going to include another gold, it might as well be a new one. I think that the golds are where she sometimes repeats herself. Like, isn't it Gold Standard that is in several palettes? I'm not really like super building these up. I just want to make sure that it's nice and smooth, but I like this gold. I don't know if you can tell, but to me it has almost like a sunsetty orange undertone. Like it's a gold, but it almost seems like it has like a background note of orange. That's my thoughts. Now, this next shade is, spoiler alert, one that I certainly want to use in a look tonight. This is Noir Moon, and I think that this is really beautiful. I think it's, to me, it actually looks like a very deep graphite, but I think it's actually a black base, and it's the like pearlescent teal kind of sparkly vibe that gives it that like graphite-y look, but it does have more of like a black base, but it's going to make a beautiful, sexy smoky eye. So very excited with these first 4 shades. I will say, like, I feel like just from the swatches, these shimmer shades are really nice and creamy. Some of them definitely have a more foiled, thick feel, whereas like Noir Moon has a little bit thinner feel, a little, not dry, but definitely drier than the others. So I'm definitely noticing that difference in formula, which I think is always so much fun to play with. We have Bronze Nova, which is very pretty. This one I'm really excited to try. It honestly, in the pan, it looks pretty, but it doesn't look like it has quite as much magic. This actually has a nice little flip to it. I'm assuming that this is one of the 24 karat duochromes, but this really does have a beautiful flip. However, I'm going to be honest and say that it does look like some other shades in my collection. I might, at the end of this video, dig a few like comparisons out from other palettes just to compare, but that is a very pretty one. Again, Bronze Nova. Then we have Nocturne, and this is a beautiful, like rich brown shade. Now, these mattes are definitely like softer and do provide some kick up. I think that this is a unique brown in the fact that it has almost like a plummy undertone, like almost like chocolate raspberry fudge from Sydney Grace. So that is also very stunning. Then moving into Galactic Glow. This is one that it feels drier. It feels a little bit more like Noir Moon in the less creaminess of it, but it swatched out nice once I kind of like warmed it up with my finger. But that makes me wonder if this is going to be one to get like a really pretty effect if you're going to want to use your finger just to heat it up. And I do feel a little bit of that. It's not like, it's not at all like, let's say, like a glittery feel, but it does have a little bit of texture to it. We have another beautiful matte. This is Sun Rose Amber, and this has, so it looks like it has a bit of orange to it, but when it's swatched, it's almost like a little orange and a little rosy. Does that make sense? Like, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing this like ambery roseness. It's pretty, whatever it is. Now, here is another repeat shade. This is Lotus Luxe, and this is a very beautiful, it's definitely a Pat McGrath pink, but this shade, while it's definitely a standard like Pat McGrath pink, it does have a little something to it because it has your like pink base and then almost like a coppery shift to it. I don't think that it's considered as one of the duochromes, but I do think it has a bit of a shift. So then we have Lunar Haze. This is a beautiful like silvery lavender. And these types of shades aren't something that I go for all that often, but if you like a good lavender shade, now I think that this could be really beautiful. And boy, does it pack a punch. That is gorgeous. There is just something about even the non-special Pat McGrath shades that just to me still feel a little special. There's just something to it. So then we have Electrique. All right, so this is a beautiful, like nice rosy matte. Definitely, like if I can bring down here, it doesn't have as much depth as our first shade, and it's a bit warmer. Like I feel like this has some plummy tones to it, whereas this is more of that like warm pink. They're both very pretty. Our last shade in the second row is Heavenly Body. This is, again, like definitely something that I could see. If you, I mean, seriously, like if this were a palette, like I would be like, oh, that's a Pat McGrath palette right there. Like rosy, a little bit of lavender. Now Heavenly Body has that pink with a gold shift to it. Oh, there we go. I'm going to try to catch the light there. Hopefully these swatches are doing okay. Now, I will say I'm definitely getting a good amount of kick up in the pan here as I'm swatching the mattes. Now, here we are with our third repeat. This is Bronze Eclipse. This is a beautiful, like deep, gorgeous, wearable, creamy bronze shade. Like, oh, it's very pretty. It's not super metallic. I'm not sure if this is more of that sateen formula, but I would imagine so because it isn't like as highly reflective, but it still has a bit of sheen to it. So we're gonna open up the other sleeve here to get these last ones on. So our next shade is Solar Flare. Wait, this I have a feeling is a sateen, because this again is just more of like a soft quality to it. Boy, I'm not even sure if you're going to be able to see that. That kind of like blends into my skin tone other than the sheen of it. So it's like a goldeny amber with a bit of peach to it. Boy, that really does blend right into my skin. Okay, here is one of the shades that everybody was excited about. This is Nirvana. This is that beautiful, like rich teal shade. Now, I mean, of course, my first thought is like, yes, please put this all over my eyes. However, I will say my friend Rupi Minhas, I just watched her video. I've only watched 2 videos on this palette, and it was Rupi's and Alicia from Kinky Sweat. And when Rupi did her video, she did a beautiful look with that color. So I'm actually going to link her video down below because you might as well go see her video if you want to see this color used, but it was gorgeous. So this is Corrupt Copper, and this is the final repeat shade. I'm excited about this one. It's a beautiful, like, pumpkin-y copper. It's not, it does honestly tip somewhere between copper and orange. Now, this is another shade that I was really excited to try out. This was Palladium or Palladium. I'm actually not quite sure how you say that, but this is, to me, this is like my vibe of a mix between like an old gold and a pewtery silver. It is like grungy and slightly bronzy, and I am here for it. Like it almost has like a little bit of an olive hue, you know, like almost that like slightly patinaed metal. It's very pretty. And then of course the shade that everybody has seen because Pat has used it all over her Instagram. This is Citrine Envy. This is this beautiful citrine shade, nice and bright. Like, oh, I think, and I mean, with knowing how launches go, I'm sure that Pat already had this undergoing when she launched Utopia, but I feel like this definitely has more of the vibe of like what we were all hoping for. Like there are definitely some shades in here, like this one, these two, even like this one here, this pink, like just more of that, like, yeah, that's what we were wanting, Pat, in Utopia. Okay, so why don't we zoom out so we're not quite this awkward, and I cannot wait to play with these shadows. So I think what I'm going to do is, at least for these first 2 looks, I'm just going to like speed through them. I will make notes of what shades I'm using, and then if I have some thoughts in between each look, I'll just go ahead and give them to you then. I think that kind of like keeps this nice and tidy, and then this way we can get a lot of looks into a little bit of time. So here we have look number 1. Again, this is just a very light, soft, what I think could be an everyday look. If you like your pinky soft looks, this is great. I think it's going to be my goal to use as many shades in this palette as I can tonight. I'm really liking this Lunar Haze shade. So right away I was like, all right, we're doing all these looks. You might as well start off with a color that you don't think you're going to grab for a lot. And actually, I really like it. I like that like silvery lavender. I think it would make a really great inner corner color. Not surprisingly, Electric worked beautifully. That's what I used in the crease and on my lower lash line, and it blends out so beautifully. I talked about this before. Honestly, I know everybody raves about Pat's shimmers, but I really think that her mattes are very, very good, very reliable. Like, we don't get excited about mattes because a matte's a matte until it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's patchy, if it's weird, if it doesn't last, then it really sucks. But mattes are really beautiful. So I am appreciative of this. Galactic Glow is perfect. It's going to be another beautiful inner corner brow bone highlight. If you are not new to my channel, you will know that I always love to have at least 1 or 2 inner corner possibilities. I just can't do without an inner corner. Speaking of what I realized after I put the first matte down, I don't have anything on my eyelid. I have no primer, I have no concealer. So normally I would have concealed my eyelid first because I do have a little bit of discoloration on my eyelids. So especially to like make the colors pop a little bit more, I probably should have lightened and brightened that up, but that's all right. Now you guys can see what it looks like with 0 eyeshadow primer. So I think I am going to go ahead and go through with the Urban Decay Eden primer. That's like my go-to, the one that I know works really, really well for me. So I'm gonna throw some of that on and then we'll go and do a bit more bronzy fall toned look. Here we have our second look and I feel very fall. Like I said, I'm going to try to use as many of these as humanly possible in these looks, and I did use quite a few here. So a couple notes. Nocturna, that is that dark matte that I went in with. It's pigmented. It is very, very pigmented. So if you don't want really dark, go in with a very fluffy brush and tap it off, tap it off. As you guys are probably seeing, I'm like taking little clips of brush on pan to show you which shade I'm using. I'm just trying that vibe. Let me know what you think of that. But so, you know, I think I got a little extra and it was quite intense, which I don't mind, but then there wasn't really a lot of room to blend. So it just kind of like went everywhere. You can also tell now that it's on how much like reddy purple is in this color. So it is definitely more of that like plum fudge kind of vibe rather than like a brown. So just know that when you use this, but it's very pretty. Now, if I didn't include the clip of it, I did clean up in here just because, again, I wasn't quite sure. I always want to try doing a round eye shape, but it just doesn't go with my facial features. So every time I do it, I just feel a little awkward. So then I just cleaned that up and went back through and blurred out this edge and pulled it out with that Sun Rose Amber, the other matte, the like lighter sort of like rosy amber. Yeah, so one thing that I will say is the bottom shade that I use, this Solar Flare. So this is that like light kind of like satin color. I thought it would make a really pretty inner corner shade. However, I think that it's going to be a good inner corner if you are a medium to deep skin tone. If it's facing the light, it's a beautiful shade on me. However, if that shade is not hitting the light, you see the deep undercast of it. And I've talked about this with other, especially like highlighter formulas, if they're too metallic or that's not the case with this, but you can, if it's not directly hitting the light, it almost looks like a shadow. And that's exactly what you can see right here. It just almost gave me that like sunken fashion model vibe. And I really just want like light and bright inner corner. And I do also want to note, and I know that Alicia from Kinky Sweat also happened to mention this, if you do decide that you want to like blur and blend the foiled or metallic shades, because they do have that like sparkle to them, you're probably going to get some fallout. That is what happened when I used, again, see, this is so annoying. I'm having to keep like pulling out my pictures here, the Bronze Nova. So I used that over the copper shade and just tapped it in on the lid and then just used a brush to sort of like blur the edges. But I wanted to mimic that underneath the eye. And when I tapped it in with my BK Beauty brush and just sort of like gave it a little wiggle, I did get a bit of fallout underneath. So that's just something to keep in mind. Honestly, if I'm going to be using something this reflective, I'm probably going to be doing my concealer at least, very last, but probably my face in total at the end anyway. So not a big thing, but if you are a like eyeshadow last person, which a lot of times I was, and I'm getting into the point where now I enjoy the freedom of being able to sort of like color outside the lines and swipe it away easily. So I have started to do eyes and then my face, but I digress. Just wanted to note that I really do like this. Liner, I did go through with that Stila liner and now I seem to have already lost it. No, Stila Spiced. So, or Spice? Yeah, it's Spice, not Spiced. So it's a very, it actually mimics the shade of the like deepest matte. So I really like that on my waterline. For me, anything that has a bit of like a reddish tone brings out the green in my eyes. So I really like this one. For mascara this evening, I am just using this YSL Mascara Volume Effect Seals. I don't like it. Really don't like it that much, especially for the price of it. I mean, I obviously just got this sample free, but it is like a basic mascara. It's one of those ones that I feel like I have to work and work to get on my lashes to stay, but I'm trying to use it. I mean, it does okay, but for YSL prices, I'd want more, but I did want to show you. So again, we've got this like lighter pinky vibe going on, and then of course this like, we're getting a little deep and sultry. So you'll have to let me know what you think of these two. I'm gonna go take this off and come back and we'll get a little smoky action. Well, I feel like this is smoky, but smoky-er action. All right, we're back. I will see how my face feels tomorrow. I never use makeup wipes, but I didn't want to like wipe my whole face off, so I just used a makeup wipe. I'll let you know. By the way, if you do want to know what else is on my face, I don't have a blush or highlight on yet because I thought maybe I would try to use things that are in this palette. But if you want to know the rest of the details, I will always try. I'm going to on this one because I'm telling you right now that I am, but I'm going to have everything that I'm wearing linked down below if you want to know. So now I'm going to challenge myself to do something pretty colorful and pretty deep and smoky. That's the way we're gonna go with this. Hopefully you find this helpful. Let me know, do you like videos where there's like a multitude of looks shown, or do you like videos that have like one or two? I just wanted to show you the versatility of this palette and find out for myself, in all honesty. So we're gonna dive in. Let's start colorful. here we have our look with color. I know I said I was gonna go for like festive holiday vibes, but I wasn't thinking quite so close to Christmassy. This was a fun one to play around with. So I will say that layering that Lotus Luxe and trying to match it up with Citrine Envy, you have to fade them pretty quickly or else you get a little bit of that like goldy neutral, because of course red and green make brown. And I didn't want it to get too gold here since we were going to be using the gold here, but I like the way it turned out. I do think that actually once I went in with that bronze eclipse and gave a little neutrality to this look, I think that's a word, neutrality. Yeah, I'm gonna go with it. With a little bit of neutral tone, it really grounded it. I have to say, of course you guys know that Rose Venus is probably gonna be one of my favorite shades in this palette, and I was like, oh, I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna use this. So it is just what's underneath my lash line, because I feel like this is gonna be a beautiful lid shade and that's where it's going to shine. And I only have 2 lids, and if we're doing 4 looks, I can't use every single shade as a lid shade, but it's gonna be very pretty. But I did just work it down underneath the lash line and met it up with that bronze shade. So it's gonna be really pretty. Again, the mattes blended out beautifully, no problems there. I have to say, as I'm going through this palette, I am getting, like when I did my palette bingo with Nomad Cosmetics America's Parks palette, I feel like I ended up with a look very, very close to this. So I'm gonna have to pull that one out to do some swatch comparisons. I feel like we have some similar tones. Probably not the same formulas, but similar tones. But I do like this look. I think a lash really pulled it together too. Again, I'm wearing lashes. I really just want to wear lashes all the time if I'm wearing lashes. But these are the wifey lash. They are the most dramatic lash that I have, I feel like, from lashes. And I really do like these. So again, colorful look. Now we're going to go through and do our final look. It'll be smoky, and ooh, I cannot wait to use this noir shade. All right. Is it funny that the deep, grungy smoky eye is the one that literally took me the least amount of time? I love a good smoky eye. You basically just have to take like 2, maybe 3 colors and smear them all together. So, notes on this look. I am really loving this Nocturne shade. I could see me hitting pan on that dark, dark shadow. It is just such a beautiful tone. I love it. I really do like the, what was that called? Noir Moon. It is, I thought that I would make it a little razzle-dazzly when I put it over the Glam Glue from Glam Shop. It's pretty. It honestly is like a black with a little like je ne sais quoi. Like you have to be fairly close to be able to see that it has that little razzle dazzle to it. It might be different if you use it wet because I did just pack it on dry. But by the way, I will say I used my good old Wayne Goss 18 brush. You can't get these anymore, sorry, but I just used this to like press this on and got no fallout from that really, really dark shade. I did manage to use the Nirvana shade. That is what I popped into my inner corner. I am just realizing though that I did not use Palladium or Palladium. Oh, where can we throw this in here? Shoot. All right, well, we're just gonna take a little bit just so that we can say that we used every shade. All right, I bet I can use it on this like little inner corner here. Hold on, hold on. Please stand by. Okay, now I technically have a tiny little bit of palladium, I think it's palladium right here in my inner corner, like on the lower bottom tear duct. I wouldn't recommend putting it in here because you're gonna have the same thing as that other shade where I talked about, where the under, like the background, when it's not hitting the light, it's gonna look really dark and you're going to look like you need some sleep. So that's not what you want. When you have a smoky eye, you don't need to be making your inner corner like even darker and recessed, but I really love this. So we did it, you guys. We did it. We used every single shade in this palette. Obviously, a couple of them were not like features of the show, but I figure, you know, there's only so much we can do when we have one face that we use twice. And hopefully my eyeballs and my eye skin are not on strike tomorrow. But I have had a lot of fun with this. Again, I just used my wifey lash. And by the way, I switched to my Thrive Cosmetics mascara just so that I can wash this off because that's going to be what I do after this. So really quickly, why don't we go ahead and use a couple of these shades as blush and highlight. We will see how this goes. This is the lighter, I mean, I guess I would say it's almost like a corally pink. We're going to use that on this side. I'm just using a Luxie Duo Fiber powder brush. And I'm just gonna tap this on. I am not really normally a matte blush wearer, but we're gonna give it a go. This is just to show, you know, if you did want to travel with this palette, you could utilize it as your blush as well. I am really hoping to snag one of those blush trios or the face trios because I actually didn't, I chose not to get one of the single pan blushes from Pat yet. Again, I was planning on picking one up during the sale, but I really do like the option to have smaller pans because how often do you ever like use a whole blush? So smaller pans of more shades. I'm just hoping that I'll pick up a face palette and use it as much as I would a single shadow or a single blush. Yeah, so now I'm on the same brush. In all honesty, I'm taking that Saturn Sunset and we're going to use that on this side. Again, I'm just using a duo fiber brush because partially this is obviously a small pan and I really need to like make sure I can like blur this out. Oh, I think I was still talking about my eye look when I realized I didn't use palladium. So I did really enjoy using those deeper tones, and I really thought that Electrique on the Sigma E36 really worked nicely to blur out that Nocturne shade. So that's just a little tip. Again, you guys know I just recently talked about the E36. I love that brush from Sigma. So you guys can see the color difference here. This one definitely has a bit more warmth to it. This is more of that like plummy deep vibe. Ooh, I really want to try this as a I'm sorry guys, I just don't think I can tell that this is going to be kind of chunky monkey on the face. This darker shade, this Solar Flare shade, if you have a deeper skin tone, I could see this actually being a really pretty like blush topper. That's what I'll do. Why don't I'll just like make this a little blush topper with my finger. And that gives it a little bit of glow, but the only other shade in here that I could see like using as a highlight is going to be that Galactic Glow. And I'm just worried it's going to be kind of chunky as I go ahead and I start to put it on. I mean, this is not textured skin friendly. Oh no. I knew it was going to happen. Why did I still do it? Ugh. Yeah, I definitely would say don't use this shade. This one is a pretty like blush topper, but I feel like the shimmer shades are just a little too chunky. Let's grab the Wayne Goss Coral Rose palette. I'm just gonna try to like top this with the shade here. What do I have here? A Spectrum Katie Jane Hughes number 8 brush. I love this brush. We're just gonna kind of like try to blend into that. Okay, I'm feeling much better about that. Much, much better. I just don't go for like a super highlighty look anymore. And I feel like my skin texture is doing really well. I just don't love that look. I like a good Cupid's bow highlight, but that's about it. And a good brow bone highlight on occasion and the inner corner. I'm all about that. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and spritz a little bit. Let's just go ahead and use MAC Fix Plus because it's what we have here. And then we're gonna do a lip. All right, we've got a lot going on the eyes. I probably should have just like whacked on a nude lip a while ago so you guys just didn't have to sit here for 7 hours with my naked lips. I'm just gonna go through with the Hyacinth gloss from Goss. So again, we have Electrique with Solar Flare on the top for this little like glowy coral blush moment. And then we have Saturn Sunset as our blush. We tried to use Galactic Glow. That wasn't working so much. So Goss sort of gave us a little Hail Mary here. And again, the Hyacinth gloss over top. So I'm going to zoom out. We can chat a little bit about this palette. I'm also going to pull out that America's Park palette so we can look at that to see if I'm crazy about this matching. All right, lovelies. Thank you for sticking with me through all of this. Like I said, let me know if you enjoy a multi-look video. I'm hoping in editing I can make this as speedy as possible. In all honesty, again, the smoky eye was the one that took the least amount of time. I have to say that this colorful look was the one that I struggled with the most just to try to get the blend. But in all honesty, again, I was just trying to like use as many shades from this palette as I could. And we managed to use all of them. All of them. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I hope that you found this fun. Now, I have to say, just from the looks that I've created tonight, I am so glad to have this palette, and I figured that I would be. I love my Celestial Divinity palette. I think it was such a great deal, and I think this one is going to be a great one as well. In all honesty, I don't think that there is a dud in the mix here. Every shade that I used performed really beautifully. So I think for me, the only, I don't want to say negative, but you know, in an 18 pan palette, we have 3 shades that are in this like rosy family, and they are different. You know, they either have different tones or different formulas. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that here. So in the pan, Heavenly Body and Rose Venus look somewhat similar. When they are like swatched out, they do look very different, but I just feel like if you had taken one of these rosy shades out and put in a different shade, like if you had gone in and, you know, added a little bit to this color scheme. I don't really use purples a lot, and I feel like the Celestial Divinity palette has a lot of purples in it, but if you had put in a blue, then I think that really could have gone well with that Noir Moon shade, or you could have used it, you know, with like the greens and the teal in this palette, or like a really nice peach, like something that is just a little bit different than pink. I just feel like when you have an 18 pan palette and 2 of the 4 mattes are like in a peachy pink realm, and then you have these 3 like rosy shimmers, that's a lot of rose from a woman who has given us a lot of like rosy pinks. And I'm sure everybody's saying the same thing. I really appreciate that there is only one like gold in this palette this year, and it's not a gold that she's released before. I think that the Palladium shade is, while it's not a gold, it's like that kind of like old gold grungy vibe, so I'm really gonna enjoy using that one. I'm kind of sad that it only got its moment here on my like inner lower corner, but what can you do? So at the end of the day, I'm definitely glad that I have this palette. If you like the color story of this, if you think that this would be shades that you would enjoy, I definitely say go for it. I think that it's a great value. It does have a higher price tag, but you have to think that's 18 shades. They are a smaller pan than your traditional Mthrshp pans, but like, let me know in the comments down below if you've ever panned a shade in your Mthrshp palette. I would be curious and I would be amazed, but I know that I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. I think that, like I said, there's not a dud in the bunch. These formats are beautiful. I do think that like they are pretty shades. I wish that there just wasn't so much pink all the time, but it's Pat, what are we gonna say? I am very excited to play with this more. The only things that would steer me away from this is obviously, in all honesty, I feel like the vibe of some of these shades are going to be in other Pat McGrath palettes. So if you already have a lot and you don't like collect to just collect, I don't know that there's anything super special in here other than the couple tones that we don't see a lot from her. If that's worth $78 to you, go for it. That's great. But you've got pinks, you've got golds, you've got bronzes in here. I'm excited because I don't have a lot of Pat McGrath. I do find that this formula is great. I don't have a traditional Mothership yet. At some point, might I get one? Yes, but at that price point, it just sort of like breaks my heart. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe at some point if there's an amazing sale or if I get another Rouge Reward that I just am ready to like burn on a palette, we will see. What I would really like to see from Pat in the future is if she did like a 10-pan palette that was, you know, obviously like about half this size at an even lower cost, because then I feel like it would be a palette that I would travel with. I would definitely end up probably purchasing both and I could use one or the other. I think that would be really cool. It's like a quad is too small for me. It's too small. I feel fenced in, I'm limited, I need more shades than that, but like this is something that I'm probably not going to travel with just because it is so big, and trying to get it to sit in my vanity, I'm just worried that I'm not going to use it. So I need to find a special spot. I need to find a special spot in my vanity here where I can put this palette. But I have had a lot of fun with this. What I am going to do is go ahead and add in some swatch comparisons here at the end of the video. If you want to stick around to see that, feel free. I'm going to dig out some of those shades from America's Parks because I'm really going to be curious to see if there's a similar vibe, because I do feel like I got a very similar look and I'm just really curious to see. I know that they're different, but I'm wondering if they're similar. So if you're gonna hop off here, I just wanna say I really appreciate the time that you took out of your day to spend it here with me. It does mean a lot. If you did enjoy this video, if you found it helpful, please don't forget to give it a like on your way out, and I will see you really soon. So, I'm not completely crazy. These are not dupes by any means, but wow, is there like a similar color story here or what? So here we have the Nomad Cosmetics Acadia Lighthouse, and then we have Nirvana from Pat McGrath. Then we have the Ho Rainforest and Citrine Envy shades. And then here we have the shade Delicate Arch and Bronze Nova. And then we have Teton Range and Bronze Eclipse. Sorry if that got a little jumpy. I keep having to look at that darn picture for the Pat McGrath shades, but I'm not crazy. They are a little bit similar. Oh no! All right, if you're watching, since I caught it on camera, you might as well know I just spilled that coffee all over Celestial Divinity. And my rug. Shit.